Hey VC, how's everybody doing tonight? Tim back again. No, it's been a little bit, but work's been crazy. Trying to get some things caught up. I'm actually taking some time off next week, towards the end of the week. So, been working like crazy to try to get everything caught up. And I've been busy also with purchasing. Those are some of the required new pieces over the last week ish. So it's been busy. I did post up a picture today in the YouTube vinyl page on Facebook. So obviously I've had my hands full. Gonna try to get through this one kind of quickly though. What this one is tonight is a long overdue. I'm not gonna do a full in-depth, but a review nonetheless of this one. The new Jimi Hendrix, Both Sides of the Sky. So again, I'm not going to try to do an in-depth track-by-track analysis. I think that's maybe better left for the experts. But I do want to talk about it a little bit and give my overall thoughts and a review for those that may be interested in it or just want to kind of hear some thoughts from a Hendrix fan. Been a Hendrix fan a long time. I see it, I buy it, especially if it's not insane priced. I really do try to get anything I can from Hendrix, just because although he had a very short period of time with his star burning, he was very prolific. He recorded all the time, he performed all the time, so we are lucky enough to actually have a large cachet of music for someone who was only really there for a few years. And let's face it, he's okay. He's pretty darn good. So that being said, kind of a brief history on this one and the two others. So for those of you who might not know, these were acquired once the Experience Hendrix Foundation or the Hendrix family regained control over the Hendrix catalog. Not too long after he died, Alan Douglas came in, swooped in, and made a questionable deal with Hendrix's dad, Al Hendrix. A lot of people felt that even Hendrix's dad wasn't going to gain control. Whether we agree with it or not, it is what it was. And it kind of happened, and there was nothing we could really do about it. The reissues came, that was fine, but as tapes started to surface, since Alan Douglas had control, there was a lot of concern of what he was doing with them. He was going out and getting session musicians to complete tracks. These people didn't even play in the same style. For those Hendrix fans, we don't need to go into this super in depth, but there was concern that the Hendrix catalog was mishandled. And that concern lasted for numerous years. There was music, but as we started to dig deeper, there was questions of cuts. Masters may have even been destroyed because of editing. So once the Hendrix family regained control, from what I understand and from what I've read, a lot of tapes started to surface. A lot of tapes that were hidden from Alan Douglas's view. Good or bad? We'll say good because now the Hendrix family has something to do with it. So now comes the daunting task of what's on these tapes. Well, they brought in Eddie Kramer, which was the right move in my opinion. Someone who'd worked with him, someone who knew his style, knew his sensibilities, knew kind of what he wanted. I mean, the best that we would know. So I thought it was a good idea. Live shows started to come out, fantastic. Those are always a safe bet. But what do you do with all these extra tracks? So they released 3, and I'm going to call them compilations. I don't want to call them true albums because you're going to have repeats of songs we've heard before. So I think it's a great compilation look into the vaults that surfaced. Obviously, the first one was Valleys of Neptune, then People, Hell, and Angels. and now the new one, Both Sides of the Sky. I'm not going to focus on the other two, even though there are songs that are repeat. And I own them, but not on vinyl. I wasn't buying vinyl when they came out. I recently got back in. So I just want to focus on this. First off, I do want to comment on the packaging. 180 gram vinyl, fantastic sound, great pressing. It does not come shrink wrapped tightly, which, if you've studied any type of packaging, is good. I know Paul Baraka P-Dub, he talks at length about packaging these new gatefolds with the wide spines. So there's a lot on the topic of why you shouldn't probably shrink wrap them tight. And they didn't, and that was a pleasant surprise. The other thing that was nice is that they packed them in MoFi. That was really nice. I expected to see paper. I was prepared to swap them out and keep the paper. But what they did was they kept all your inners essentially in this booklet. So I'll give them an A+ on the packaging. Very well done, very well thought out, thought with the vinyl collector in mind. So when you get it, you don't feel like you need to inspect it with a fine-tooth comb, that there could be issues. Vinyl is very heavy, very thick, which is nice. Again, pressed extremely well, clean. I didn't have any issues from the warehouse, which was good. So this one comes, I think it's 13 tracks. I'm going to kind of refer to the book here. I'm going to open the vinyl here as little as possible. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, yeah, 13. 13 tracks. Some of these we've heard, some of these we haven't. Again, I'm not going to do an in-depth analysis on every track. I'm going to talk about my high points, a couple missteps in my opinion, to let you decide what you want to do. But I mean, ultimately it's Hendrix. I was going to buy it. It has some amazing moments that I was not expecting. So you have, it opens with Manish Boy. Manish Boy is a Muddy Waters track. You sped up. He went for a little bit more of the gusto with it, which I appreciate. I like what he did with the track. But something we don't get to see all the time is him being playful. In the middle of it, he breaks into the 60s Batman theme. He had a humor, he had a sensibility, he had a charm that I feel really came through on live performances. But on a studio track, for him to kind of tool around a little bit with that and kind of work it in was very well refreshed. So I really enjoyed that one. Other songs that really stand out, I mean, with Stepping Stone, but we've heard that before, and I want to touch on that here in just a second. Other things, he worked with Stephen Stills. Obviously, they worked together on Stephen Stills' first record. They did 2 songs on this one together. One was $20 Fine, which was a Stephen Stills song. It brings in essentially I think it's the Band of Gypsies. Now it's actually a little bit of the Experience. But it's Jimi, it's Steven, it's Mitch Mitchell. It's a great song. You know, I really enjoyed it. But the other song that was really a nice surprise was Woodstock. Those of you who know, Joni Mitchell wrote the track, gave it to Stephen Stills because she couldn't be at Woodstock, so she kind of witnessed it from afar. She wrote this song, gave it to Stephen Stills for Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Stephen couldn't wait. He wanted to record it. He wanted to put it down somewhere. So while hanging out with Jimi, hey, let's record it. And Jimi actually plays bass on this song. It's refreshing. It's a really cool, interesting take to hear before it gets finalized. So we know where it went. It's kind of interesting to hear the infancy stage. And again, Jimi and Steven were very close, so it's again kind of a nice little way to peek behind the Iron Curtain with these jam sessions, or whenever Jimi was plugged in, he was recording. One of the other songs that I absolutely love on this album is Cherokee Mist. It's the closer. it was recorded in '68, so it's a little bit earlier than some of the other things, and it's an instrumental piece. To me, it's probably my favorite on the album. It is Jimi doing what Jimi does, which is letting his fingers do the talking. And it's not a blistering track; it's a slower track. But he knew the right notes to play and when to play them. When he was live and it was blues, he's going to destroy that fretboard. You know, you give him Voodoo Child's Light Return, and you get 15 minutes of you don't know what the hell you're going to get, and that's good, and that's what you should get. But with Cherokee Mist, it was just an absolute fantastic sit back, way to close the album. Almost felt emotional, and I really enjoyed that track. Like I said, I do think there were a couple of missteps. Now, I'm going to say that with the understanding that we don't know all the tapes that they had to sift through. And again, these were tapes that surfaced, so some of them could be incomplete, not usable, and I understand that you want to put something out to kind of share. So Stepping Stones on this record, it's been done, it's been recorded, it's been produced numerous times. I have to ask, was that the best one? Again, it's Hendrix. I'm going to buy it. But when we start getting these repeat songs, it starts to feel like a cash grab. And don't get me wrong, I don't think these three albums are. But I have to ask, was there anything else that could have replaced it? The other misstep, like I only think there was a couple on this one, is Hear My Train A-Comin'. Now, this is a Hendrix staple live. It's been released numerous ways live, and this is actually a studio track. I'm happy for it. I'm happy to have a studio version. But to me, the mix is too much in the red. At times it sounds a little distorted. So, just a personal aside, I have to ask, was there anything else that could have been there to say, hey, this song has been out there, but was there other things that could have been in its place? I love having a studio track. I love having a studio cut, if you will. But since a couple pieces of it sound too much in the red, it gets a little distorted and not the fuzz way that you would expect Jimi to do. So, I'm not mad. It's more of a question. So my overall take on the album: if you are in your infancy of your Hendrix experience, maybe not the best one to get right now. I say that because not everybody is always into Hendrix, and I understand that. Some people may not get into him as much. Meh. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those ones that preach that you're wrong. That's your decision. But if you're just beginning, these three albums are probably not the best to start. Obviously, you want to start with the three that were released. There's some great comps. There's some great live albums. As you learn the Hendrix catalog, you can visit these. For those of us who can look at Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, and you hear every note. You know that album forwards, backwards, sideways. You know that album better than your own social security number. This is a fantastic album. My overall score on this is going to be an 8.9. I wanted to score it a little higher. I wanted to get it over a 9, and it just didn't sit right with me. And again, because of the two missteps, I think that although, and there's other songs on here too that I question, but I just call out those two because Hear My Train A-Comin' has been published on so many different live compilations and live concerts. We know it. Stepping Stone is on every best of. So there's versions out there. And again, it's not that I hate these versions. And I understand that there's limited material that they can work with. So don't hate me on the comments in that one. But if you want to, that's fine too. But I have to ask, were those two, maybe a couple others, but at least those two, Was there anything else that was better? Was there anything else that offered a different insight into what he was working on? We'll never know. Maybe we will. Maybe they'll bring out more. I don't know. But if you are a Hendrix fan to fanatic, get this album. Got some great blues. It's got that the Hendrix feel that you love. It does not disappoint. And I think the extras with some nice surprises, like I said, of Woodstock and Manish Boy, and the packaging is well done. It's worth the money to pick it up. So that's my opinion. If you've listened to it and you have some different comments, please let me know. I'm always open to listen. If you have some questions about it, again, feel free to comment. I'm hoping to do more different album reviews, but I'm going to be selective because there's a lot of people out there much smarter than me, more articulate than me, that can talk about music all day long. So thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody tuning in. VC, I hope you have a wonderful night. Peace.